evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all in between. Jason, my brother, how you doing?
I'm great, man.
If you notice, no, we're not live from South Carolina from the trees and all, but it's Halloween themed, and yeah, we have Barb, Shadow, and Darren are going to be on.
Return guests, yes,
absolutely. They'll probably be on every Halloween from here on until until we retire, because we like our spooky peeps.
Mm-hmm.
And plus they're
just great people,
part of the pod family.
That's right.
So how's your week doing?
Good. I plowed through it and been working on some guitars. Made some headway today, so I was pretty happy with that. So
nice. Yeah, tomorrow I'll be directing 2 music videos for Hank's Neighbors.
Nice.
And I'm sure those will be on in the upcoming weeks, and they're of cover songs. They're a cover band in northwestern Illinois, out by Rockford, Wisconsin. So hanksneighbors.com, you can go there and book them for a show. So yeah, got all the equipment behind me there.
Mm-hmm.
It's been an interesting couple of weeks because I was doing all 3 jobs last week, and then one went away and then one added. So now I can't say for which firm I work for, but I'm selling the marijuanas.
Nice.
At the I am a bud tender. So yeah, pretty interesting. But what are you gonna do?
Hey, somebody's got to do it, man.
All right. And Fred Bonanno might be joining us later if he's not stapled to the bar. Because he's been really trying to get in on this one, and so we don't know if he's going to make it back. I said no worries, but
yeah,
Fred might appear, and
cool.
Of course he'd like to talk to fellow author Barb Shadow as well. So without further ado, let's bring on Barb Shadow and Darren, who doesn't have any penis envy. But...
No.
What's up?
Only for myself I do,
Hey, self-envy is good.
Self-envy.
How you doing, Barb?
Good. How are you?
Good. So congratulations on volume 2.
Thank you.
Right on. And so tell us about
nice.
Yeah. So tell us about the journey. Like last year you were on and you told us about making the first one, and then how did the second one come about?
The first one was flying off the shelves, and it only made sense to continue on. People are so interested in hearing stories of the paranormal by, everyday people just like themselves, their neighbors, their friends, and It's not, everything is not demonic and terrifying, but there are things going on that are really fascinating.
Yeah.
So,
it's not the movies.
It is not the movie.
It's not the movie. It is not the ghost shows. It is not the investigative shows. It's real life and happening around us.
Right. I've never been in a conversation where people are like, oh, did I tell you about my ghost experience? Everyone's like, no, I didn't. Move on.
Yeah,
everyone's like, what?
Yeah.
It stops everyone because everyone, you can't get out of dying.
Everybody's got something. And a lot of people, there's still a stigma. They don't tell anybody. A lot of the stories that get sent into me are, you're going to think I'm crazy, but
right.
And, I've had enough experiences. I'm out there investigating with the team, and, I don't think they're crazy.
And that is the best. That is a really great architecture for this cover.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. So what's the story with this building?
I just thought it was absolutely the best. It's, creepy.
Right.
It's somewhat similar to the picture on my first book, which is It's a Step into Darkness, and not the first ghost book, but the first.
Okay, gotcha.
The first of my horror / paranormal series.
Okay.
And, it just had a nice creepy echo to it.
Right. So now,
and then my idea was this year to change the guy. If you're going to keep doing, volumes, put them in a different window in the house, you know.
Absolutely.
So yeah. My idea. So my contribution to the book.
Well,
Uh-huh.
well, Darren
Oh,
also
hey,
does
that
have a
sounds
story
bad.
in the book. So.
Yeah, I do. I have one in the book.
Right.
I know the author, so you know it's like
Right.
Yeah.
You know her personally,
personally.
but
No penis envy.
No penis envy. That's right.
no penis envy.
Not on her part anyway.
Right. Nice. Well, this is a scary show, everyone. So, you know. So that's the house you're talking about, A Step into Darkness.
Yep.
And then got to show this one here as well. And I believe this is your series.
That's the first three. The fourth book is out. It's called
Here's a Barb.
Touched by Darkness. I'm working on the fifth book right now. I'm actually the first draft is done and we're starting to edit, and that's Initiate of Darkness. So
Right on.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. You've been busy.
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
pretty
people are like, hey, we don't know what hit. Whatever hits, we go with. You know, you never know what's going to hit and what isn't.
absolutely.
You know, and
You guys, and I like you guys, man. There's a ton of work in this.
Oh.
I don't know how you write a book. Like I write a song and I'm good, but like a book, it's like
right.
Takes a while.
damn. Yeah.
Well,
You know,
even
and-
these collections, a lot of people, you know, are telling me, well, it's a collection. You just, you know, everybody sends in your stories and you just put it out. And it's like, wait a minute.
No, you're
There's a
editing, you're
whole lot of work
writing,
in
you're, you know, because I wanted to do this book called Women Love Assholes.
Oh,
That's a good title.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And everyone's
Yeah.
like, would get pissed off at me at the title. I'm like, exactly.
Yeah.
It made you stop. Guys
It
are going to
sure
laugh
did.
at the title. Women are going to get pissed off at the title. That's what I was looking for. But the whole thing was, hey, I'm looking for stories of people dating in their 40s and 50s because it's totally different now.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, oh, I've got a great story. I've got a great, and they'd hype it up and everything. And then I'm like, okay, come over on this time, set up dinner and drinks so they can start 2 sentences.
Right.
That is not a story.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you know, you have to, even when like people, you have to pull it out of them. And,
Oh yeah.
you know, that 7-page short story, you could have gotten it, Barb, in 2 or 3 paragraphs.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's 17 phone calls. And then,
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
you know, a week after you're done with something, someone remembers a detail, and then you have to
I've had that numerous times. Numerous.
times 20 or whatever you choose. And then, of course, there's always a few probably left over, you know.
Yeah. Or else, you know, I've talked to somebody on the phone and what they described to me was fantastic. And they're like, but you don't have to write it up. I'll send it in. And what they send to me is, you know, a shortened version that lacks like 3/4 of the details.
Right.
So, oh yeah. But some of the phone interviews that I had were just amazing. And the stories, I mean, they're great.
Now, how did you go about finding people to submit? Where did you how'd you get the word out, in other words, I guess?
Actually, the word went out only over Facebook and word of mouth.
Wow. Yeah.
And the response is amazing because it was a Facebook post. I boosted it a little, but I had easily 8,000 to 10,000 responses on the posts, just with people putting their story on the post instead of, you know, sending it in through my website.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And, you know, some of the things are just jaw dropping, you know, and you can tell when people are putting you on,
Oh, for
Right.
sure.
you know, and, you know, that's not hard to weed out.
Yeah.
And you can really tell when disturbing things have happened, just in the tone of the description.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
And then I also had a lot of people that messaged me privately with it and said, hey, this is what's going on. You know, I'm not sending my story in, but what do I do?
Yeah.
Right.
How do I deal with this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, you know, you're dealing with a lot of personalities.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you get a lot of people that, this is going on in my house. You know, is it after me? Is it a demon? Is it, you know, am I under attack? Well,
Right.
you know, 99.9% is not.
Right.
You know, it's something trying to get your attention, or, you know, or it's something that's absolutely debunkable and explainable.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Could be put, like I have a boiler,
Yes.
so that, that was a lot of the stories from, 40, 50, 60 years ago.
Sure.
Or even like one of the toilets, when you flush one of the toilets, you can hear the pipe 30 feet away shake.
Yeah, they just had that. They
Oh,
just
yeah.
had that. I just watched something where this girl was talking about, these weird noises coming from the bathroom, and it was the toilet.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely true, Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then once like I've seen apparitions, I've seen ghosts in almost like fog state. I've seen them like solid. I've seen orbs.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm totally into all of it, and and people are like, blah, it's just it's because you've never seen anything,
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
I had a ton of stuff, Darren. My grandmother's old place up there.
Yes.
Yeah, we had a ton of stuff for a period when I was staying there with mom after a breakup and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a bunch of stuff. So, yeah, you're right, Vince. If they don't, if they haven't actually dealt with real stuff, they have no
the
clue.
stories in the new one are really good. And even like she has a beta reader, a friend of hers that writes,
right?
And she said even like this one is better than last year's. And man, it's like it's already taken off like nuts in the last what's only been out like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
basically
about
2 weeks.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And hitting October, I put the first book and the second book now on a free promotion with Kindle Unlimited. And let me tell you, in 2 weeks, I've got close to 700 books gone.
Wow.
And that's a nice start to the year.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. And people go 700. Well, it's only 5,000 copies in the first week to make it onto the New York Times bestseller list.
Oh, wow. Huh.
And it's only 9,000 copies for Amazon bestseller.
I didn't know that. Huh.
In first week. So, so when
right now the first book's been out just a year, and for a year for an indie author, it's just about at 2,000 copies.
That's awesome.
Nice.
I'm thrilled. My goal initially with like the first book that I put out, somebody said, well, how many do you think you're going to sell? Well, most indies hit about 100 between family and friends and word of mouth. Right. I said my goal's 1,000, and now at least I would say 3 of my first 3 have gone up to about 1,500, and this one's at 2,000. So they're starting to move.
Yeah, and it'll just continue to build and build and build and build.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because people are interested, and as you know, like if you're a reader, once you like one book,
yes,
from someone, no matter what it is, they're going to buy whatever you. And then most authors, are they count on that and they hope for it. So that's a great start.
Well, I've got a handful of diehard fans that have been hounding me for the next book in my series, and now they're getting hooked on this, because this is it's not your typical super scary personal experiences and it's all evil. This is the things that go bump in the night in your neighbor's house, and some of my stories are in there at the beginning of each chapter, and it's things I've seen, heard, felt, because I've had things touch me. And Darren and I saw the most amazing, creepy apparition one night. We were driving back. It's on a street adjacent to his, and we were just, on our way home. And he made the turn onto the road. And as we're driving along, right in front of the car, straight across the road, we would have hit it if it was a solid person.
Oh, wow.
It was person shaped. It was a thick, solid mist kind, but it was a person. And he stopped the car, looked at me. He's like, "Did you see that?"
Hold on. Before you continue, we're going to bring on Fred. Fred, what's happening? This is Barb.
Hey. Hi, Barb.
Hi,
Sorry I'm late. I'm late. But
So
I wanted to make sure I got on.
Barb was just telling the audience about her and Darren were driving down a road by his house, and they saw a presence of some kind in the road. And go ahead, Barb.
If it had been solid, we would have hit it. It was probably, a good, I would say almost 6 feet tall, person shaped, solid white mist, flew right across the road in front of the car.
Yeah.
He stopped the car and he's like, "Did you see that?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I saw that." And, we paused for a moment and then continued on, and we saw it go across the road the other way up ahead. And of course, being, in the car on our way home, I didn't have, my video recorders. I didn't have my voice recorders. I didn't have any of the equipment that we would have. And we went back to his house for a little while. I was talking about what we saw on the road.
Yeah.
And then we, gathered up some things and came back out, but it wasn't back.
Right.
Every time we were on that road, I'm kind of just waiting for it.
That early evening time, we're going to catch this again.
But it was amazing. It was amazing because
I'm like the skeptical guy too. You know what I mean? I try to debunk, we got to do investigations and stuff. I'm the guy like, well, why did that door close? Or why did this, and I'm really
could have been this,
Man, when this went across the front of the car, I was like, what the hell was that? Because it was like, it was not, I'm like, because it had a form. I mean, it was a person. It was a person. And we went down, we turned around, went back. And then we went back down by, it was farther down the road and it went back across the road the other way. And I'm like, this is really screwed up.
But then didn't we find out later?
Yeah. Then in that stretch, there's been a couple of accidents where people have gotten killed.
Right.
Like not far at all from there. So,
but it was amazing that we were in the car together. We both saw it, both jaw dropped.
Yeah.
And,
it wasn't like, oh, that's just steam or something. Like, because for me, it just like, it hit me instantly. Like
had it been solid,
that had a human form.
Had it been solid, we would have nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's pretty crazy. But so we get a lot of cool stuff,
And when people say mist, so I've seen where it's fog, but it's not like see-through fog.
No,
this wasn't either. It was a little dense.
It was like a solid mist.
Yeah,
like cigar smoke.
Yeah,
right.
Like you don't see through it.
Right.
Yeah. So these guys back in the day, back in college, just before I was roommates with Jason and Rob, they wanted to bring the Necronomicon in the house, and I had 2 rules: no Ouija boards, no Necronomicon, no Book of the Dead. Sorry, don't want that shit in my house.
Yeah.
And of course, they brought it in, and everyone who messed with that book, one guy went to jail. This is all in like 10 days after they, were reading that book. One guy went to jail. One guy dropped out of school. The other guy moved back home because of, criminal shenanigans. And we were even, we were even joking around, Coming to America by Neil Diamond. We're all sitting in Dave's room. We're reading Necronomicon. Like we did this whole thing, and sure as shit, pans start flying off. Pans are flying off the stove across the kitchen, like the black. Not the cheap pans, the big old ass doors opening and closing. And then we nicknamed him Ecto because my stage name was Vince Vector, and then Ecto from so he took the V. Anyway, so we'd be jamming and it would just show up, and it would just be this column. You knew it was a person, but you couldn't really make out the fine details. But it was that thick cigar smoke. And boy, if you're not like, you're just kind of duty, and you're like, holy shit, like right there.
Yeah.
We found out someone who lived in the place before us was murdered.
Were they murdered there?
A 6'8" or 6'7" guy. Yeah, he was the maintenance guy, and he was riding his bike, and someone mistook him for someone else and shotgunned him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's.
I mean, there is a section in the book at the back of the first and the second book for darker things. The majority of the book is, The majority of experiences that people send in are visits by loved ones who have just passed.
Yeah.
And it's either they've passed and it's a visit and the person doesn't know that they're gone.
Right.
Or it's they're grieving and it's kind of I'm okay, let it go kind of a feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
And really that's the majority that people mention.
Right.
But then, there are the apparitions that are kind of sketchy, and then, things they hear and so on. But at the back of the book and in this one, there were many more people coming forward with their, oh, well, I had a Ouija board and this happened. Oh, well, we've been here and this happened.
Right.
One guy sent in an experience he had in a hotel in Sweden. And it's, I believe, one of the most haunted places, where the hotel encourages people to do whatever they want paranormally. Bring in Ouija boards, hold seances, do whatever you want, provoke, and so on. And if you actually make it through the night, you get a certificate.
Nice. Hey, Jason, you can bring the goat.
That'll provoke him.
I want to see when you get the passport for the goat. I'm really kind of
yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know if I told you. Did I tell you guys a story about when I went to Nebraska last year, Iowa? Okay.
No.
So this is one of those stories that turns out sweet, but it begins horrific.
Yeah.
So me and this lady I was dating, we go to Macedonia, Iowa, which is about 40 minutes from Omaha, Nebraska. And she wants to see the bridges of Madison County because she's an actress. I wanted to go. That's where my books are. That's where they take place. A lot of that takes place in like Nebraska, Iowa border. I don't know why I just picked that randomly, right? And because of story elements. But anyway, so I'm researching.
And you love corn too.
Yeah. And I'm researching because there's multiple books. So you're planning ahead and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. So this book's called Portal, and I need like a horrific crime that happened in like the 1860s. Boom. Find it right where my story takes place. At a place called Portal School in Portal, Nebraska. So we're like, oh, I definitely have to go check it out.
Mm-hmm.
What happened is this teacher had killed this, one room schoolhouse, killed all 9 of her students, cut their hearts out.
Wow.
Put their heads on their desk and like weird shit and like dumped the hearts in this river. And there was a little bridge called Heartbeat Bridge.
Wow.
So we wanted to go but it wasn't, you had to go hike to find this thing. So we went looking for it, couldn't find it. So we're heading back into town, and we did an Airbnb, staying in a town of like 300 people. And the kid was staying across from us. We come up into town, and I see a 16-year-old girl giving CPR. So boom, slamming in the park, run out there, and it's the kid from across the street. He got run over by a Harley. And, there's, a big chunk of his leg missing. And I'm like, holy fuck. So I knew what was going on. I have some medical training, this kind of thing. And I was like, oh, shit. So so anyway, what winds up happening is the kid winds up, he doesn't make it. He would just, his rib cage was pulverized. I'm sure his organs were just, liquefied. So that kind of was like a bummer. So the next day we're leaving and we go to the bridges of Madison County. Right. And so we're about ready to leave, and I'm have my window cracked about this much, and I'm having a cigarette, and a white butterfly flies in and lands on my knuckle. When we both, are like, whoosh, and I'm like, oh, hey, buddy, sorry we couldn't save you, but at least you had some smiling faces around you when you went, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he flies off. So turn on the radio. We're leaving, and this is a dirt road. This isn't like highways and You know what I mean? So we go down this dirt road and we turn on the radio, and some song's playing about a sign. It's not sign, say, long time freak, not that one. But it's another song about signs. Never heard it before. And it's like, oh, signs are signs. And as soon as they say that, we look up and there's a street sign, Stewart Avenue. That was the name of the kid.
Wow.
When
you had a lot of signs, man.
Oh yeah, and I was like, she looks. I'm like, I told you that shit happens to me all the time. People don't believe me.
Yeah,
but
it's true. There's no coincidences.
Yeah, she tells me that all the time. Like something will happen, I'll say, "Oh no, it's a coincidence." No, there are no coincidences.
No.
Right.
So that's
really,
Yeah, I remember hearing that happened to you, but I didn't hear the story about it. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah,
God bless you for being there, man. It's
someone here that's involved, but it was weird.
Yeah.
It's usually if someone in my family dies, I see them within 2 weeks.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Either in some form, like I saw my grandma on my ceiling, and kind of like the moving, like a Harry Potter picture painting when everyone's moving in the movie.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. But I saw like their family photo from like the 40s, with all the aunts and uncles and shit. But usually it's an appearance, or with my dad, it was a floating orb, which is funny because he invented this trick called the flying fireball. So like, it was this orange flying orb, so irony.
Yeah.
And Seth saw that, and I've had, people who are at my house who saw Blue Boy. We used to have, when we lived in Downers Grove, it was haunted. It was the first church in the town. They split it into a duplex or whatever, and everyone would be, hey, we just saw Seth was upstairs. How is he outside? He's like, oh, that's not Seth, that's Blue Boy,
Huh.
But it's weird when other people see it.
Yeah.
Like the numbers got to be like 11, 9, 10, 11.
Yeah.
And that's never happened to me. Usually one person might see it, but to have that many, over time was kind of interesting.
Yeah. What about you, Fred? You ever see anything out of the ordinary?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
My dad passed away. It'll be 44 years ago next month. The night he passed, he was at our house. I was 22 at the time. The next day, I got woken up in the middle of the night, and my dad was standing there in the doorway in his lime green leisure suit, which he wore back in the 70s. And it was him. And I wasn't dreaming because I stood up in bed and I knew for a fact it was him. I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't scared. And he just looked at me and almost gave me the "it'll be okay" sign and look. And I remember after his vision disappeared, I had this incredible calm come over me, going, it's my dad visiting me, telling me everything's going to be okay. And it wasn't scary. It wasn't freaky. And I didn't tell anybody about that for years.
Yeah.
And I think I told my wife about it a couple of years ago, and she goes, how come you never mentioned that? I go, I just that was something I needed to keep inside of me. And I knew that was him. That was not a dream. That was him. He was there. He came and told me everything's going to be okay.
I think a lot of those.
Another freaky story. I'll give you another real freaky story that just happened a couple of years ago. We had a little dog, a little Yorkie Shih Tzu. His name was Toby. He had passed. We had to put him down a couple of years ago. And my mom's house, she had a coffee table with every picture imaginable on it. Like 12 pictures all stacked on this coffee table. And if one would have got knocked over, they would have all fell over like dominoes. And after our dog passed away, about 2 days later, I was at my mom's house, and she said, did you knock a picture down? And I said, no. And I knew what she was talking about. And there was a picture of myself, my wife, my daughter, and our dog. And it was flat down on her coffee table, and not one picture around it was moved. And I knew that was our little dog telling us, I'm okay. But I just want to let you know, no way in the world that picture would have got knocked down without knocking every picture down. So when you see stuff like that, a little smile will come across your face because you know that that's a sign from the other world saying, we're okay, we're here. We just want to let you know we're thinking of you too.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Well, we have the cat. I have a cat here.
A ghost cat.
A ghost cat.
Oh.
So it's really freaky. So I got this house. This house was a repo house, and I bought it. And three of us, like from the first time we put the house in, we kept seeing a man in a white t-shirt or someone in a white t-shirt go from the mudroom, the laundry room into this little bedroom. And it was like crazy. And so I did some research. I had the old title and stuff. And Carlo used to own this house, and he had two daughters. Well, I have two daughters. And he over the fireplace, there was a stick with all the little hooks, for the stockings for his grandkids. I know he loved kids.
Yeah.
So I have more stories here but anyway, so we started seeing this cat, or we started hearing this cat. We started feeling, the cat rub against your leg and stuff. So my older daughter was here. And she didn't even, I don't know, it was like a month or so, 2 months after we got the place. And she was getting ready to leave. And she said, she was like, she was putting her shoes on at the door. And she was like, she pointed down the hall. She goes, I just saw a cat. And I'm like, no. She goes, no, Dad, I just saw a cat. So we've had this thing with the cat. So my daughter, Allie, has known about the cat. Now, I don't know why I have such freaky daughters, but both of them are like so in tune, way beyond my grandmother, my aunts, they all told fortunes. They were all really in tune people. So a couple of weeks ago, she was in my room, and I have a real cat, Bo, that she loves. So she's in my room, and she starts talking to Bo that she thought was in the closet, and she comes out and Bo was in the kitchen. And her eyes got big, and she looks at me and she goes, Bo's out. I just saw Bo in the closet. Dad, I just saw the cat. I just saw the cat. So she was like, the cat is here. And the cat travels next door and goes to my neighbor's house too, because he saw the cat. So the cat's like living at both houses. So yeah. But it's pretty wild.
Craziness.
We can prove that for you. I'm allergic to cats. I'll come over, and if my eyes start watering, we'll know for sure. We'll know for sure.
Definitely.
One of the things one of the things that I always thought was hilarious is like a lot of people who are hyper religious poo-poo ghosts immediately.
Yes.
Which, like, those two don't, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
My mom was really religious.
Yeah.
And she pretty much poo-pooed ghosts for a very long time until she was getting older, until, I had my paranormal team, and she would listen to my stories, but she didn't put much stock into it. It was really, that's your thing. Okay. You go hunt your ghosts. Right. But as she got older, little things, she had a crow that would come and sit at the window. And it started following her. She would go into another room. It would be at the window. And she sat me down one night and she said, all right, what does this mean? And I wasn't going to say, oh, Mom, this is maybe not the best thing, but, people...
You're going to die! No, just kidding.
But I said, I'll have to research it for you. We let that go.
Right.
And, as she got older, she listened more to my stories. And then, she was having some medical issues and she was in the ICU for a while. And when she came out, she was in a nursing home, and she said to me, when I was in ICU, She says, I was watching the window where the nurses would go by the nurses station.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, and I saw relatives. She said, I saw my cousins go by. I saw this one go by and this one. And she's like, they're all dead. What does this mean? And she's like, I know I wasn't hallucinating. It wasn't a dream. And I'm like, I know, Mom. I get that. They were, maybe they were watching out for you. Maybe they were there in case. I can't give you all the answers. So she really started, kind of not dropping her beliefs, her religious beliefs.
Right.
Of course, she had.
To me, it just never made sense that would be.
She couldn't, merge the two.
Right.
But I'll tell you that in the years since my mom passed, she has come back a lot, and it's little things that I can tell that it's her. But the most major was my dad was around a couple of years after my mom. He had his Alzheimer's. It was pretty deep dementia, and he stayed with my sister for a while and then was in a nursing home in Virginia. I was going to drive to Virginia for his 91st birthday, but I was basically, going on my own. And anyone that knows me knows I have the directional sense of a doorknob. I'm terrified to, I live on my GPS. It probably took me 15 trips when I started dating Darren to be confident in not using the GPS to get to his house.
Yeah, she doesn't have ways, she'll never get home.
No, never. So I was really stressing this drive because I knew I had to see my dad. We didn't know how long he'd be around.
Right.
And I had to make his birthday. And I got in the car. Now I'm a 7-hour drive from my sister's. I hit New Jersey, and all of a sudden there was a presence in the car with me. And I'm telling you, even though I couldn't see her with my eyes, I could see her with my mind. And it was my mother in the passenger seat. And I could hear her. Whenever we drove anywhere when she was alive, she was always the driver. She was, had songs that she'd sing as she went. She loved to travel. And she was sitting there singing those songs. And she was just this presence of, I'm going with you. Mm-hmm. And I'm enjoying it, and things are good. And we hit the Beltway around Washington, and I had bumper to bumper rush hour traffic. And I'm telling you, my mother put her hand over mine on the steering wheel, and she said, "You've got this." And I got to my sister's house. I got out of that car like, yeah, I got this. Mom was with me the whole way. And she, I was there a couple of days. I saw my dad. And then going home, I had that same presence, not as strong and not as long. But she was there while I was so stressed on that drive.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, it was stunning. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was always funny because, then sometimes, just from reactions of people talking about it, oh, it's this, it's that, and then, seems like the born again crowd was, and I'm not bashing religion, I'm just making observations, but that would be seen as satanic. Oh, that's Satan's work.
Yeah.
What?
No.
Do you believe what you read or not? You know what I mean?
Right.
I was raised Catholic. Why wouldn't you believe? I mean, even one of the big three is named Holy Ghost. So you'd have, that's already in your lexicon. So why, that never made sense to me as a kid, those dueling things, going to Catholic school, all this, that couldn't talk about ghosts. I'm like, what? That's all we do.
Right. Yes.
What are you talking about? How is that? So I didn't understand the,
Exactly.
If you're reading the Bible, you're reading ghost stories.
Right.
I don't get where the big, I think that people have the experiences though. If you actually have something happen to you that you see or you experience, and somebody who doesn't, it's easy for them to say, you're crazy or poo-poo it or stuff.
Oh yeah.
But it's when I started seeing Barb, like my older daughter Nicole is amazing with what she knows, what she's learned about the paranormal. The two of them are.
She's on the team.
She's on the team, and her and Barb are crazy with like just what they know.
Well, I'd be called satanic because I believed in this stuff, and I'm like, hey,
yeah,
I'm not the one eating flesh and drinking blood. By the way,
oh,
did I say that out loud? Sorry.
Yeah.
But have you really just looked at that fact right there? It's a blood cult.
Yeah.
That's
right.
What's the difference between a cult and religion? One member.
That's right.
900. But anyway, so I always thought it was funny that, you believe in, but then you don't, and then you call them crazy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, because when you're 4, 5, and 6, all this is your world. Nothing's any different than the other.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you're experiencing it as a kid as all this stuff's happening.
But then you get somebody that is like that, somebody who's, born again or whatever you want to use the term, and they can't rectify the idea of having a ghost around, having a spirit around.
Right.
So when they do have an experience, their go-to is demonic. I have walked into my kitchen, I've made dinner, my kids ate, they're off doing other things. I've gone into my kitchen and like a serving spoon that was on the counter is completely bent in half.
Right.
And I stood there and stared at it because I knew, all right, that's wrong. Bent it back and went on about my night. But someone else is going to be, it must be a demon. They're bending the spoons. They're going to attack me. Everything is evil. No, it's something that passed through and decided it was going to let me know by,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Just like a buddy of mine died about 3 weeks ago. He was sick. I mean, by the time it was 10 days, by the time he found out he was sick till the time he passed.
Wow.
And so I get the information at like 4:30 in the morning, and I'm hopping my car at 5 in the morning, my work car. And one of the things we used to love to watch people argue. Like, we thought it was the funniest thing. Like, once people would start, and in high school, there's a lot of that shit going on, especially with the girls who were hanging around. And we just thought it was a funny thing. And we'd always say like birds, like birds of a feather, you know what I mean? So through the years, we'd use that terminology, whatever. So I get in my work car and it's like, it wasn't rainy, but, there was fog on the windows. Had to roll them down so you could see out of them. And I've never had 2 bird feathers stuck to my side view mirror. I just started laughing. I'm like, oh, hey, thanks, Mike. You know what I mean? But, little stuff like that. Was it Ghost? Was it Mike? Well, who knows? I've never had 1 bird feather stuck to my thing. And then,
yeah. Signs are cool. Signs are a really cool thing. And some people would like maybe not even look at that and catch the connection or whatever. But there's a lot of little signs. After my mom passed away, it was really weird because I worked at Sullivan County College for, 7 or 8 years. And I started finding dimes in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Like every time, and I'm not talking about like 4 or 5. I'm talking like 20 dimes or 25. And I've never, I was there 7 years, never found coin. I started finding all these dimes. I'm like, what the hell is this? And so I looked it up, and dimes are a sign. They're a sign of someone who just passed away. I'm like, my mom's on dimes thing. Like it was crazy.
So you must have,
my brother.
You must have richer friends than me, Barry, because mine was always pennies.
Pennies,
pennies are another one. Same thing is happening.
I would have thought pennies, but like dimes were really wild. I was like, and I just didn't get that. It wasn't like I was finding quarters or nickels or pennies. It was only dimes. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what the heck is going on?
My scenario was pennies.
My mom was on meds, and she stayed with my brother for a while. And my mom had macular degeneration, so she couldn't see, and she would, fumble things around and stuff. Her medication, she'd drop pills, and we'd find, after she passed away, my brother started finding like pills like all over the house. Like mom's like leaving like these pills all over, and it's like, what the hell, So So just the two of us, though, it was really cool that we both had that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It's really neat. So,
all right. So how did you pick
I
the stories for this volume?
For this volume, I did the same thing. It was strictly on Facebook and word of mouth, and easily another like 8,000 comments on the post. And it was all, oh, hey, this happened to me and this happened to me. Yeah. And, then it was really getting people to submit it through the website rather than, telling their story on the post. But hundreds were sent in, and because it is so common.
Right.
I think most people don't understand that this stuff is all around us, and it's not like the shows. It's not like, the movies that are, just for the ratings.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And she's picked up a couple more countries now, I think, too. So she's like, I don't know, 14, 15, 16 countries her books are going in now. I think it's 16 we counted.
Yeah. Well, a couple of copies in each one is
if it's 2 copies, that's like,
hey, it got there.
Yeah, it was really cool. She sold. I just sold 2 books in Japan.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, there you go. So
here's a little tidbit: Illinois history doesn't start until the first Franciscan monk showed up here with the Bible.
Huh? Interesting.
That's total truth.
Wow.
That's bizarre. I'm like, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so those things were always weird because, going to Catholic school and being raised Catholic, you're reading about people having visions and seeing ghosts.
Yeah.
The prophecy.
Like, why couldn't you talk? So that's probably a lot where my wait a minute. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's probably where that started. I'm like, it's the same, why is that bad? But this isn't.
Sure. And why was prophecy?
Because they didn't know in the beginning of the story if it was good or not,
Exactly. Exactly. But you had, people that were foretelling things in the Bible, not for nothing. Growing up, my sister would dream the night before when a family member would pass, and she dreamed when her cat disappeared, and she dreamed, my grandmother and my uncle, and, the next morning we'd get the phone call. Right. Now, how is that evil? How is that demonic?
Right. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, like when my grandfather died, I was in a dream, and then he showed up, and then we had a talk, and he walked me down the train tracks and down his grove, and then I woke up, and to the phone ringing, and it was my grandfather's friend Dennis saying, he had passed away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, that's interesting. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of those.
Yeah. And then I sat up when my nephew died, I sat up straight. He was a baby. Sat up straight, screamed, Brian's dead.
Yeah. Wow.
Like,
yeah,
just weird shit, But there's something.
Yeah, my wife's got a friend that when she smells roses, like 2 days later, she'll get the phone call that a relative passed away. And it happens all the time. It's like, what is the relationship to that? But that's what I told her. I said, if you ever smell roses around me, I'm running the other way. I don't know. But,
it's like I smell cologne. I was talking about like with my house with like Carlo. I've had, I've been going through some stuff for a while, but every once in a while I get like this, and it's really cool because I get a whiff of this cologne.
It's strong.
And it's not mine, and it's strong. So one night Barb was here, and I got up in the morning and I went out, and I was like,
"Is it like Brute 44?" Or like
or like Old Spice, So I didn't tell Barb about it, and she got to the same spot, and she's like, "I smell cologne."
Oh yeah, it was strong.
And cigarettes. Every once in a while, I smell cigarettes. I don't smoke. Nobody smokes in my house. And every once, like I told her, I don't know, it was like a week ago. I'm like, and we were talking. I'm like, I smell cigarettes. And it was
your daughter's like, hey, look, you want to fuck with dad?
She's with her little friends in her room at 10 years old. If you blow this in the vent, it goes to dad's room. She would do that too.
Yeah, exactly. Hey,
she's a little witch. She's great.
Watching, they got it on video. It's probably like 3,000, views on
TikTok.
YouTube.
She would do something like that.
No, but I mean, smoke is a common thing that people smell.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, there is,
and it's strong. I mean, it was like it was really, the last time I smelled it was really, really strong.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is nuts. This is nuts. And I'm smelling,
I lived in there's 2 stories, right? But it had a, front door and then wooden steps up to the second. It was enclosed, but there was, right when you turned, there was a space about this big that smelled like fire, like,
Huh.
But just in that, I'm like, Seth, come here. And he can't, and then a friend of mine came over later. I'm like, come here, go downstairs and walk back. I'm like, what's the smoke smell? Bizarre. And it turns out during a garage sale that we're having, an old timer, like 95-year-old guy lived in the neighborhood's like, oh, and the kids are right there. You know about the family, the guy who killed his whole family in this house and burnt it down? I'm like, what?
Wow.
Like, dude, you had to say that in front of the kids?
Right.
Yeah. Well, they're in the house in New York. I mean, same deal with the smells. There were times it randomly, you'd be going down either up or downstairs, and you would get just to the center of the staircase, and it would be like the overpowering smell of flowers, like at a funeral, where it's just like sickeningly strong.
Yes.
Right.
You go a couple steps up or, past, and you wouldn't smell it. It was really strange,
It's
yeah.
A lot of cool stuff like that. But
yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I used to see things moving. Like Mom had these ornaments that were like on the suction cups on the window around Christmas time.
Yeah.
And one night I put my key in the door. It's like 2 a.m. and it's like the winter nights. I mean, dead silent.
Right.
And I hear this tapping sound, and I'm like, "What the hell is that?" And I'm like, following the sound. And I go over to the other door that we didn't use, and there was 3 and 3, and they were all still except for one in the middle was just knocking on the glass right in front of my face. I'm like,
pretty awesome.
I was like you. I was always looking for like a reasonable explanation. I'm like, all right, it's the furnace vent blowing on.
Yeah,
but I'm like, well, why aren't the other ones moving too?
Well, when I started, my older daughter Nicole started investigating with Barb, and I'm like, all right, it's a good time for me to hang out with my daughter too. So, so I started going, and their cords were a mess, Jason. They still are, actually. We got to get some reels and stuff. But so I started doing just like going along because I could hang out with both of them and do the tech stuff, Yeah. But then, I got sucked into doing a little investigating. We'd set up a base camp, somebody would stay at the cameras and stuff and stay at the and I started going out with them, and it just kind of became a natural thing. But then I started having my experiences too. I started hearing things and you hear the voices, you do the EVPs. I had my hair played with at the Rivoli Theater, which was, I've never in my life ever really been touched, but I had my hair played with, and it was just like, and I'm like with the fly, I'm like, is there spider webs? You know what I mean? And it was like, and it was like repeatedly, like 3 times, Yeah. And the girl that was there that was with us said that the guy that passed away recently, one of the guys that worked at the theater passed away. She goes, right here in this spot right here, this is all his stuff.
Yeah.
And I was standing right there. So it was like, when I don't know, I mean, you can be the skeptic all you want, but when it happens,
sooner or later, you can't, you
can't deny,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
My Allie is 10, and she has an experience in the book that absolutely blew me away.
And
I can't.
Kids
this kid, man, and her, and it's like both of my girls are like that. They get it from their grandmother. Our aunts were all, my grandmother and my aunts used to do fortunes with regular playing cards, not tarot cards, regular playing cards. They used to read fortunes, and like they were just all the women. It seems like most of the steel women on, have this, but my Allie is like crazy nuts with
and her story involves a spirit of a little girl who followed her home from a cemetery and gave her information on how she died. And then we later, we had already done the research and confirmed it. Yeah.
I picked her up at school. It was crazy. It's just, it's
a good story.
Long story short. Yeah. You got to read the story in the book, but we found this, she said, I have this spirit. I have this girl that comes to see me, and she's dressed in old clothes. You know, we had found this old cemetery.
You're going to tell the story, aren't you?
Yeah, I want to really bad because it kills me. No, what she did was nuts. You know, I mean,
it was good.
What she did was nuts.
Yeah, but she was telling you about this.
She blew me away. Yeah,
and she had the name.
She had the name. She had the period, kind of the old clothes, and she said she comes to see me like it. She said she comes like when I'm falling asleep or when I'm waking up. She wears a little tiny hat on top of her head. So we found this old cemetery. We went through a couple times. So Barb and I went back there and we found this little girl. She said, I feel like her name is Annie. So
we found the stones where this family had lost three kids
in a flood.
And then later Allie was talking to Darren and she asked how.
No, so I picked her up at school and I said, Allie, I think I found your Annie. And she goes, how did she die? She goes, Dad, I want to say it was like a car accident, but that's not right. So I happened to have to stop at her house that day to pick up her backpack to come with me.
Yeah.
She was in the house 30 seconds, maybe 40 seconds. I said, I'm not going to tell you. You tell me how she died. So I had my passenger side window rolled down and she goes in the house. She comes back out. She comes up to the window. She said, did she drown? I was like, Allie, are you freaking kidding me right now? I said, how would you know that? She goes, when I walked in the house, I asked her, how did you die? And she told me she drowned. So she does some freaky things, this kid. So it's just kind of a...
But she had drowned like 150 years ago.
Yeah. 147 years or something. Yeah. So
we think that, you know, I don't think that cemetery is visited very much. It's very old. It's very small.
It's remote.
And I think when they went through,
we stopped like 8 months before this.
Yeah. But I think they went through and this little girl must still have been hanging around and just saw a little friend to leave with for a little while because she's not there anymore.
Yeah. But, you know, my Allie's a twisted rip like the other two. You know what I mean? She's like Barbara and my other daughter. You know, they're all twisted bitches. You know, what can I say?
We're bringing her up right.
They are. I mean, actually, she's really in tune. My Nicole is really smart and everything, but I think Allie is more in tune. So I tell her now.
She's still little, too.
She's still little, yeah.
Have you ever heard of Resurrection Mary?
Yes.
Yes.
So that's literally where me and Fred live.
Okay.
A few miles away from where Resurrection Mary's always been seen. You know, it turned into folklore or urban myth. But for those who don't know, Resurrection Mary is considered to be Chicago's most famous ghost. Since the 1930s, several men driving northeast along Archer Avenue between Willowbrook Ballroom and Resurrection Cemetery have reported picking up a young female hitchhiker. And then, you know, she disappears. But yeah, there's a few of those. And, you know, there's got to be some kind of energy or.
It has to be.
Well, wasn't it also after one of the really awful tsunamis?
Yes.
That, you know, so many people had perished, and then for a long time, the cab drivers
would
pick up a fare and go and
oh wow!
I mean, but it was like, you know, hundreds of reports of these cab drivers.
And Nicole
not having people in the car.
Nicole actually told me
ripped off.
Like, hey. They had a guy that lived like, I don't know, near there or something. And he answered the door and there was this girl there and she was soaking wet. And she said she needed clothes and he went there to get her clothes and come back and she's gone. Well, he's had all these people like knocking on his door that were soaking wet. You know, I mean, you can't deny something. You know, I mean, right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's all types of weird, you know.
Yeah.
So Barb has to start on her third volume for next year. But
we'll start that in January. I've got to get book 5 for the series, you know, edited and done and out by the end of the year. And then I can start on, you know, volume 3.
Yeah. That's why I'm excited about starting this new thing that I'm doing, is because it frees up what was my writing time that the other job occupied. So, you know what I mean? So I can do it every day, not just two
Yeah.
than one, you know. But yeah, so it'll be interesting.
Very cool.
But all right, so how many stories are in this one?
Over 150.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, some are short, some are, just a couple paragraphs, but then there are others that are, 5-7 pages long.
Right.
And they're worth it.
Nice.
It's built. I said last year, I'm taking some credit because last year I said this book is going to do well. This is good. I said, Barb, this is going to do really well because you're going to, she has her books and she has her fans of her series, but this is going to, and last year it was like, that was crazy. But then this year, this one is even bigger so far than, so, she keeps building on it. Next year's got to be even bigger yet, but man, this one's like taking off.
Nice.
Crazy.
It's the subject. I think people just crave it. They want to hear what's going on.
Everyone's interested in ghosts, and
and it's nice because you can pick it up and like you can read it's not like you
have to read it cover to cover, right?
Chapter. Yeah. I
Yeah.
have to get through this chapter. No, there's like, some places there's 2 or 3 stories or 4 stories on a couple of pages. So, so it's really neat, quick, cool,
and creepy.
Yeah.
And creepy.
Cool stuff. Yeah.
Nice. Fred, you got any questions?
No, because I don't have any questions, but I know that it comes down to, and I think this is why your books are doing so well, is people probably have all these experiences happen to them and, shun it off as it's a coincidence, whatever. And then when you start hearing other people go, maybe that really did happen. Maybe there was a ghost. Maybe there was someone trying to contact me. And it's not freaky. You're not wow, you're going crazy because this stuff happens, especially if you open up yourself to believe this. They're out there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, it's like validation that, you I mean, that you can tell your story because everybody else just told theirs, and
right. Yeah, you're not a kook anymore because this is really happening.
And again,
absolutely.
I think the people that read it last year too, and it got out. Now people, when she does another one, this year I'm going to submit my story, so now.
And I already have people that have sent it in for the next volume. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You're not crazy. We're all crazy.
We are.
Yeah. Everyone's got stories almost, and I think the people who poo-poo it just are jealous because they haven't seen something. You know what I mean?
Agreed. I think so too.
Yeah.
Or they don't want to see, and that's the thing too.
A lot of people are scared.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people are scared.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, what are you gonna do? Well, right on. Well, Barb, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Darren with the envy.
Yes.
Jason, love you, brother. Fred, love you
guys, man.
And of course, we'll have you guys on again during the year, and then of course, when your next book comes out, you got a date reserved all the time here at Creativity Talking.
Sounds cool.
So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and of course, go buy these books right now.
Awesome.
And make the holiday season a good one with the gift of words. We're at Creativity Talking, everybody, and we will see you next time.